The British Futurity is a grade one. It's the ninth race on Keeneland's Saturday card, and it's run at a mile and a 16th for 2-year-olds. And this is traditionally a really good race, and it's always a nice prep for the Breeders' Cup. Forte, a couple of years ago, came out as the winner. And we take a look at this field, and we've seen quite a few of these before, led by number one, Ferocious, who was a very game second. Up at Saratoga last time, and losing to Jonathan's Way is certainly no sin whatsoever. And then we've got the others have most of these are coming out of maidens, but it's the usual suspects have their entrance in here, and it's an interesting field. Of the front runners, one of the things I noticed about all three is not one of them is a real speedball. All of them came out of sprint races where the fractions were moderate to even almost, I'd say, slow. I mean, 23 and 46 for 6 or 7 furlongs is a pretty slow time. So all three of them really pretty much had their own way. I can't get really excited about any of them when you see that those type of fractions, in particular optical, drew away and clearly had more in the tank, and maybe there's a little extra there, but you do have to question the field. I don't think it was terribly good, and I don't think the field was very good for any of those top three, so I'm really not interested in any of them. Race shape wise, what it probably does is nullify the later runners from getting up in time, and any horse who's up and near the lead is probably tactically going to be in a very good position. The only thing that may upset the apple cart, these being 2-year-olds and whatnot, maybe somebody goes bonkers and then the whole thing falls apart. Very conceivable in a 2-year-old race, especially since it's 2 turns, never done it before, and they're going to run it like 1 turn. So. Of the three of them, East Avenue probably for the connections probably has something a little more in the tank, but taking him on the front end all the way at Keeneland, especially in this group, I think is a very tall order. So I'm not really interested in using any of the front runners. Tenacious Leader, losing to Zulu Kingdom on turf certainly is no disgrace whatsoever. And I thought Tenacious Leader ran very well. He has won on dirt, that's true, but do note it came from off the turf. And this looks to me like Mike Rapoli just, having to have a horse in a grade 1 stakes race. I think Tenacious Leader is a good horse. I don't want to say he's not by any means. And he can factor in this race. And based upon his speed figures on turf, he probably is commensurate with the ones running here. I don't necessarily like him as a win candidate, but I do think he has some talent. So let's keep him in there. Probably use him more for underneath. So now we come to the likely favorite, Ferocious. And, speed figure wise, he towers over this field. So, of course, this is a horse that makes a lot of sense. His first 2 starts, I had mixed signals with. And I'll tell you, the thing that I noticed in both of his starts, while certainly once he gets it going, he's pretty impressive. But that's just it. Once he gets it going, in both races, he's slow to get going. And in particular, at Saratoga in the stakes race, the hopeful, he looked beat. And then all of a sudden he kicked it into high gear, and there he was running it, closing very well. But it's a funny thing watching him run is that it just seems to take him a little bit to find his stride. Now that's not a big deal when you're a 2-year-old, and I think it's a signal that he certainly wants more ground, and he's going to get it here, and 2 turns should be right up his alley, and that's why I'm going to pick him to win. The other thing that I think is really to his tremendous advantage is having Luis Saez in the irons. Because as we know, his work with Tapit Trice, he can really dig into a horse and get them going. And I think he's going to need to do that with Ferocious. So I think that's a winning formula here. And plus, I think this horse is very talented. He's displayed a ton of speed. But I do wonder a little bit about if it's going to take him a little while to get going, then he is slightly vulnerable. So something to keep in mind. But yeah, he's the pick to win this. Now, of the other runners in here, Dapper Moon really caught my eye. I really liked what I saw from Dapper Moon. He breaks sharply and was able to take back, and then when the time is right, kicked it into high gear, and boom, he was gone. He did it very impressively. I just really liked what I saw from Dapper Moon, and it's not to be underestimated that Dallas Stewart has really been firing on all cylinders lately. He was very solid at Churchill Downs. I think he was winning at 30%. So his barn's going well. So that's kind of an added plus. So to me, a sleeper in this race, if you're not going to go with Ferocious, I think Dapper Moon makes an awful lot of sense, particularly since he will be up near the leaders. And again, if it does take Ferocious a little too long to get going, Dapper Moon maybe gets the jump and can maybe just inch out at the wire. Handsome Pants is I'll be very honest, that maiden race, Kinetic Control was supposed to win, and Handsome Pants was a first-time starter for Kenny McPeek, and so generally, as a rule, I throw him out because Kenny McPeeks don't fire very well. But I got to tell you, I was really impressed. For a first-time starter to pick his way through traffic like he did. He got a great ride from Brian Hernandez. That's no surprise at Churchill. But it was the way he went about it. This is a horse who's very professional, very mature, and in his second start, if he can take a move forward, he's going to be a handful. So for a price, which you're likely going to get, I like Handsome Pants a lot. I do, as I mentioned, the race shape, I think, doesn't necessarily set up well for closers. But I think this one probably will be a little more forwardly placed than perhaps he was last time. And with a move forward, I think he's dangerous. So Handsome Pants certainly one to use. Macero is Dale Romans is 21% with second-time rooters. And he comes out of the best race. He ran, it was a non-factoring fourth in the hopeful, but he comes out of the best race. And that's really what the appeal is to me. And he certainly looks like he's managing his speed a little better. He's more one pace than he is a closer. So again, around 2 turns, not this time as the sire. He certainly has the pedigree. I think he's one that can factor in here, but I like him a little bit more for under, unless, he would need a pretty big leap speed figure-wise to deal with some of the better horses in here. But Macero, I think, is one that we can certainly use. And I'll just mention a couple others. Filoso, I didn't think ran a bad race. I actually thought it was pretty sharp. But the thing that bothered me a little bit was it seemed that it was a trip dependent. In other words, he got a really good trip. He got a break on the inside, and he was able to cut in, save ground. And I didn't know that he was necessarily... I didn't think he was doing it on talent alone. And that's kind of what you want to see with 2-year-olds, where they could just blow a field away. So his speed figure is pretty light. Maybe this one can take a move forward. I wouldn't, talk you out of using him at the bottom of the exotics, but I don't think he's necessarily a win candidate. And I just like others better, where perhaps he'll get a little bit more value. And then finally, Big Boat. He's kind of the same thing. He looks to me like a sprint closer. I just wasn't impressed with that effort. I thought he had things all his own way. And again, not necessarily doing it on talent, just sort of had everything, the whole inside wide open for him. Everybody else was swung way out wide. And he took advantage of it and got the win. Stretching out, I think, he's by Nyquist. I mean, he should be 2 turns, should be okay with him. Again, this sort of a decision on my part. I like others a little better. So, in sum, Ferocious, the one for me here. We go to our wagering strategy. Ferocious is likely to be a pretty short-priced favorite. I think that's we can all agree on that. So, let's go for a value play with Dapper Moon to win. And again, I really liked what I saw from that horse. And with a move forward, he's going to be very dangerous. We'll do a 110 cold exacta. We'll box 1 and 10. Because I do think Ferocious, again, if he is a little slow to get going, he still has enough speed to get up for second, like he did in the Hopeful. But I think he's going to win this race. We're going to key box with one on top with 4, 9, and 10. So if perhaps Dapper Moon doesn't fire as we expect, we've got a couple other options with Handsome Pants and Tenacious Leader, who I think, again, I'm not overly psyched up about this horse on dirt, but I do think he has enough talent. I think he can stick around. We'll do a trifecta here because when we have a short price favorite, let's try to get some value, get some ROI here. So we'll go 110, 110 with 479. And if you want to use a couple of the other closers like Big Boat, I don't blame you, and you can throw them in there. And then we'll do 110 with 479 with 110. And then we'll do one final one with trifecta key with one on top with 4, 7, 9, 10. This is always a great race, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's all about who's going to move forward. That's always the question. But I think Ferocious, particularly with Luis Saez aboard, there's a lot to like there. And I think this is his race to lose. So I hope our analysis helps you with your own wagering strategy. Wish you the best of luck as always. Keep on the lookout. We're going to have more postings. We'll have something for the Champagne Stakes as well as some of the other stakes at Keeneland on Saturday as well as Aqueduct. It is Belmont's championship meet, so there's a lot of winning your ins, a lot of Breeders' Cup activity, and I think we want to pay attention to that. So busy week, but we'll try to get it all in for you. And that's it from here. I'll talk to you soon, and until then, be well.